So let us start the session. As I told you yesterday, today we are going to start with a tool of DevOps, which is known as Jenkins. Okay, Jenkins is a tool using which we perform something called as CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. Okay, deployment or delivery, whatever. So what is CI/CD? Why should we use Jenkins is what I am going to explain today. Just pay attention to the explanation I am giving. Don't worry about the notes. We'll send you the notes. You can actually go through the notes a little later. What is the meaning of CI/CD is what I want you to understand. So in any organization, this flow is almost the same. You have a team of developers. Imagine that these are your developers, right? Now, what is the responsibility of the developers? They create some code. It could be Java based or Python based, it doesn't matter. They create some code. Now, once the code is created by the developers, what they do is they upload this code into some server, which is called as a version controlling server. One common example that I can talk about is Git. Git is a code repository. When I use the word code repository, you understand that all your team members are uploading the code into one centralized server. That centralized server we are calling as Git in this scenario. Now, why this code is developed? Code is developed by the developers for some client's requirement. There is some client. Yesterday we talked about HSBC and Wipro. HSBC is asking Wipro to create a software for internet banking. So your developers have created the code for that internet banking. Now, do you think this code will be directly given to HSBC? No. Client is not interested in code. Client is interested in the application. End users like you and me don't understand code. We are interested in the application, the software application which you can install and you can start working on it. So this code has to be converted into a file which is called as an artifact, a setup file. See, for example, when you go to Google and you download Skype, what do you get? You get a setup file, exe file we'll get. We'll double click on it, next, and we do the installation. And once Skype is installed, we are able to perform the video calls and everything. So as clients, you and I don't understand code. And in the process of installing Skype or in the process of doing video calls using Skype, do we see the background code which was used by the Microsoft community for creating that Skype application? No, we are not interested in code. We don't understand code. We are interested only in the application, right? So that code has to be converted into a setup file which my client can install. And the process of converting that code into a setup file is commonly called as the build process. And the outcome of the build process, the setup file, that setup file is technically called as a artifact. Okay, so let's say Java code is created by the developers. This Java code is created. Java code in the sense it's a combination of some Java programs. You don't send these Java programs to your client. The Java programs undergo a process called as build process with the help of certain tools like Ant, Maven, etc. And when the build process is triggered, that setup file will be created and that setup file is called as an artifact. Now, also you don't send the artifact to the client. This artifact will be first of all deployed or installed into the testing servers, where a team of testers will check whether this application is working correctly or not. Your organization will maintain a team of testers who create automation testing programs. Imagine this fellow is my tester. What this fellow will do, he will create automation testing programs using tools like Selenium, Tosca, different tools are there. They create these programs and they check whether the application is working correctly or not. Definitely some problems will be there. So what the testers will do, they will revert back to the developers and developers will fix the defects and upload the modified code again into the Git repository. Whenever new code is uploaded, that code has to be downloaded and they have to trigger the build process. When the build process is triggered, what is happening? a new artifact is generated. Artifact ante setup file. The executable file through which you install some software is called as an artifact. Again, this artifact has to be installed into the testing servers, where the testers will run the automation testing programs. Once the testing team comes to the conclusion that everything is working properly, it will be deployed into the prod environment, the production servers, where the client can start accessing it. Imagine this fellow is my client, and once it is deployed into the production environment, the client as a build and release life cycle. And you know how many teams are actually involved in this entire flow? You can notice that we have developers. To perform this activity of building an artifact and everything, there is a separate team called as build and release team, which takes care of that. To set up this testing server and prod servers, there will be a team called middleware engineers who set up the Tomcat or some kind of application servers. You can see there are testers. Similarly, to deploy into the final environment, there's a delivery team. So many different teams are involved in this entire process. This entire process is automated over here using one single tool that we are going to learn, and that tool is called as Jenkins. So basically, Jenkins is a tool using which it is possible to automate this entire flow of the build and release process that I was trying to explain. Online candidates, please switch off your webcams. Okay, so one more time, where this Jenkins comes into picture, I'll try to tell. Just concentrate on my screen. Again, as we started, we are saying that we have a team of developers, and these developers are actually creating some code, and that code they are uploading into a code repository called as Git. Now, the Jenkins that we are going to learn starting from today, what this Jenkins will do is, whenever developers are uploading the code into the Git repository, my Jenkins will receive a notification. Jenkins will automatically get a notification via email or something. Multiple ways are there. And once the notification is received, what Jenkins will do, it will download the code and it will trigger the build process. Earlier, people with knowledge of tools like Ant and Maven, they used to do that. Now, Jenkins will trigger the build process. And when the build process is triggered, what is the output we are getting? We are getting an artifact. The same Jenkins will take this artifact and deploy this artifact into the testing servers. See, the deployment activities in your organization are generally done by your middleware engineers. Now, Jenkins is automating that activity. Now, the same Jenkins will pick up the automation testing programs which are created by the team of testers. Imagine these fellows are your testers, and Jenkins will run the programs. If something is not working correctly, Jenkins will send email notifications to the developers so that developers can fix the defects and again upload the modified code into the Git repository. Whenever new code is uploaded, again Jenkins will trigger the process. It will download the code. It will create a new artifact. That artifact it will deploy into the testing environment, and then it will run the Selenium programs created by the testers. Once Jenkins comes to the conclusion that everything is working properly, it will deploy that into the production environment where the client can start accessing it. Imagine this is my live production environment. The client can start accessing once it is deployed here. So all these stages will be automated via one single tool, which we are calling as Jenkins. Online candidates, is everyone able to see my screen? One or two students have actually pinged saying that they don't see my screen. Can you ping in the chat if everyone is able to see what I'm drawing on my screen and everything? You can, right? Yeah, thanks. Fine, thank you. I mean, I think one or two students have pinged, they can't see, so there's some problem from their side. Anyhow, let's continue. So technically speaking, when you talk about the definitions, we generally say there are 5 stages that we are going to automate in CI/CD. What are those 5 stages? The very first stage, where the code is getting downloaded from the Git repository, that first stage is commonly called as continuous download. The second stage where the artifact is getting created, we call this stage as continuous build. The third stage where it is deployed into the testing servers, that stage is called as continuous deployment. The fourth stage where the automation testing programs are executed, we call this stage as continuous testing. And the last stage where it is delivered into the production environment is called as continuous delivery. So when all these 5 stages are automated, we call it as CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. So it's everything is automated. Developers simply create the code. Creating the code, how they are creating the code is not our responsibility. That is the developer's work. Developer is creating some code. He is uploading that code into some code repository like Git. Once it is uploaded, as a DevOps engineer, your responsibility is to configure Jenkins in such a way that it will automatically download the code, it will build the code, it will deploy the code into the testing servers, then it should run the automation testing programs created by the testers, and if everything is successful, it should deploy into the production environment where the client can start accessing it. So this is continuous integration, continuous delivery, or in some definitions, they call it as continuous deployment. There's minor difference. What is that? We'll understand, but this is the basic flow. And this flow is what we are supposed to automate. As a DevOps engineer, one of the prime responsibility is to automate, design the CI/CD flow so that whenever developers are uploading the code, all these stages are automatically triggered. Now, continuous integration. What is the meaning of the word integration? Integration means some kind of combining, joining, right? Why we are calling it as continuous integration is, though, because this is the first session, we are just talking about the basic definition. You know, slowly as we go into advanced concepts of Jenkins, we will see that at every stage, there will be a loopback mechanism, which means, imagine this continuous download has failed. If it is successful, it is going to the next stage called as continuous build. But imagine download has failed. Jenkins will immediately send notifications to the Git team telling that there is some problem. You please fix that. Imagine continuous build has failed. Artifact is not getting created. Jenkins will send email notifications to the developers saying that there is some problem in the code. It's not creating an artifact. Imagine this continuous deployment has failed. Jenkins is not able to deploy into the testing servers. The people who configure these testing servers, we call them as middleware engineers. So notifications will be sent to the middleware engineers. So all teams' work is getting integrated, and you know, it's a kind of a loopback mechanism where whenever something is successful, you do one kind of activity. If it fails, we perform some other kind of activity. Clear, or any questions? Any questions? This is just basic definition understanding of CI/CD. Online candidates, any questions you want to ask? You can please unmute and you can ask. Everyone is clear till here? Any coding is required for integration? No, we don't. Coding is created by the developers. But to perform the CI/CD, there are two different ways. One is using simple navigations where coding is not necessary. There is another advanced concept of Jenkins, which is called as pipeline. There a little bit of coding will come up, and that code also will be generated by Jenkins itself. You don't sit and write code as a programmer. You just need to give the proper instructions to Jenkins, and Jenkins will generate the code. So coding is there. Okay. So this was about the basic introduction towards what is CI/CD. Okay, I'll give you the notes of all these steps. Once the class is over, you can please go through that notes. Whatever explanation I have given will be present in the same notes also. And now, to practically implement this flow of CI/CD, we require 3 Linux machines. Okay. Now, obviously, most of us use either Windows machines or you might be using some Mac machines. Generally, we don't use Linux machines. And even if you install a Linux operating system, how many OS will you install? Only one OS. But now I'm saying that we want 3 Linux machines. Why so? Let me tell you. One Linux machine is exclusively for the purpose of installing Jenkins. The other 2 Linux machines, we will call them as testing server, QA server, and the last one we will call it as prod server. And in this QA server and prod server, we will install an application called as Tomcat. So first server for setup of Jenkins, there are certain commands through which we install Jenkins. The other 2 servers, one server is a testing server and other server is a prod server, production environment or live environment. And in these servers, we will install something called as Tomcat. Now, 3 Linux machines. I will show you 2 ways. The first and the easiest way, which I personally recommend, is using some kind of cloud service provider like AWS. The second way of doing the same thing is on your personal laptop using something called as Vagrant. Now, some of your computers might not support this Vagrant. Let's say you are using a old laptop, some 5 years back or 6 years back laptop. Vagrant might not work. It's okay. We will do on AWS. But AWS, you have to create an account. Okay. And this account is going to be free for 1 year, provided you follow certain restrictions. I'll tell you what are those restrictions. If you follow those restrictions for 1 year, AWS community is giving you for free. If you don't follow those instructions, AWS will charge you for whatever you are trying to do. What is AWS? Full form naku telusu. What is, I'm not talking about full form. What I'm saying is, when you say AWS is a cloud service provider, what is the meaning of that word cloud service provider? Cloud service provider simply means they are giving you infrastructure on rent. That's it. I'll give you an example. Starting from tomorrow, we are going to start Linux. I told you, right? From tomorrow, we'll have a Linux sessions and then we have. Now, imagine that Linux sessions I will take for 1 week. And I'll say you practice Linux. For 1 week of practice of Linux, will you go and purchase a Linux machine? Generally, we don't. Hardly for practicing for 7 hours or 10 hours, we can't buy a Linux machine, right? So what I'll do, I will tell an alternative. I'll tell I have a Linux machine at home. I will give that Linux machine to you on rent. Every 1 hour, you give me 50 rupees. You can access it from your home. I'll give you remote desktop access. Every 1 hour that you are using that Linux machine, you pay me 50 rupees. So what will happen? You will hardly practice for 5 hours or 10 hours. You are happy. I am happy. I am getting some money. And you are also not spending 30,000, 40,000 on buying a new Linux machine. Hardly you practice only for 5-6 hours. That is what AWS is doing. AWS is a cloud service provider. They are giving you infrastructure on rent. I want 3 Linux machines. I can't buy Linux machines now. AWS is telling, I will give you Linux machines. How much time you are using, accordingly, you pay me the money. If you are using it for 10 hours, this much money. If you are using for 30 hours, this much money. So when you say cloud service provider, they are nothing but giving you infrastructure on rent. Nothing more than that. They are just giving you infrastructure on rent. You people are already using clouds. Google Drive. What is that Google Drive? You go to Google Drive and you upload all your videos, your photos and everything. That is nothing but a storage. Instead of you buying your own pen drive or external hard drive, Google people are telling you upload into our drive, we will store all the data for you. Same thing. Infrastructure is given to you on rent. That is what AWS is doing. Now, what you people have to do, those of you who are totally new, what you need to do is just go into, you can just go into Google and type AWS sign up. You have to create a free account over here. Okay, just a second. So you can just click over here and you see there is an option called as create a new AWS account. You click on that and they will ask you for certain details like your email ID, your account name, etc. Like this, it will navigate through some 5 or 6 screens where they'll ask your address, your mobile number, your PAN number, and they will also ask for your debit card or credit card information. From the card that you are providing, they will deduct 2 rupees if you are in India. If you are in some other country, accordingly, some other thing will be there. But in India, they'll deduct 2 rupees, and those 2 rupees would be given to you within 48 hours. It's only just to ensure that it's a genuine account. Don't worry that you are giving your credit card information. AWS people are not going to steal money from your account. It's only to validate that it is a genuine account. But when they are giving address, asking you to enter the address, please provide correct addresses. What students do is they randomly create some wrong addresses. That will not work. Give genuine address. Whatever is your residential address or your rented apartment address, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Please provide genuine address. Otherwise, the account activation actually takes more time. Don't ask me how will AWS know that I'm giving wrong address. They will know it. So please provide genuine information, because they are not going to charge you even a single rupee, nothing to worry. As long as you follow the restrictions that I am going to show you, for 1 year, this account is going to be absolutely free. After 1 year, you can close that account. You don't want to further use it, you can just suspend that account and you can simply come out of it. So please sign up, finish the sign up process today. Now, don't ask me to show the sign up process. Sign up cheskogalru kada. Facebook etla sign up chesamu, Gmail etla sign up chesamu, or shadi.com etla sign up chestaru. Same way you sign up for here also. Nothing special, nothing extra. It simply asks your information, provide your credit card or debit card. Personally, we have seen that cards like HDFC, ICICI, these kind of banks, they don't create any problem. The account gets activated immediately. SBI, Canara Bank, Andhra Bank. Sometimes students say that it is working and sometimes it doesn't work. Now, I don't have any answer why. In some cases it works and in some cases it doesn't work. So just check it with whatever card you have. Account activation, you try to finish it off today. Now, once the account is activated, you people can give your credentials and log in into that account. Now, this is my AWS account. I am logging in via my credentials. I think I gave I mean, I accidentally typed the wrong password probably. That is why it's asking for all these things. Otherwise, you'll directly log in. Fine. Anyhow, we have logged in into the AWS account, into my AWS account. Now, once you log in into the AWS account, do you notice on the top right corner, it is showing you some city names: North Virginia, Ohio, North California, Mumbai, different cities it is showing. These are called as regions. In AWS terminology, we call them as regions. Regions are the locations where the data centers of AWS are present. When I say data center, it's a building where all these servers are maintained. Thousands and thousands of servers are maintained, and those data centers are present in different regions. Now, to reduce latency in the sense the speed with which you access, AWS recommends that you pick up a data center which is closer to you. Now, because I am in India, which one is closer for me? Mumbai. But for some reason, I see that the servers in Mumbai are slow. Why they are slow? Because so many institutes in Amirpet, students are creating free accounts. Everyone is targeting that Mumbai data center. Maybe that's the reason. So it's okay. You select some other region, doesn't matter. Every region is free. Okay. As long as you follow the restrictions, it doesn't make any difference whether you work on Mumbai or North California, anywhere, it's just the same. So please watch. What I will do is I will select, let's say, Mumbai only. Now, we are calling it as server. In AWS terminology, they call that as EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. This is a particular service of AWS through which you can create the servers. Server is a machine. When I say server, a Linux machine or a Linux server, it's just a machine where Linux is installed. Don't worry about the terminology. What is server? What is client? It's just a machine where the Linux OS is installed. Now, AWS calls that as EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute. Now, how do you activate that? Do you see on the top corner, there is something called as services. Go to services and you see there is a service called as, click on that EC2. These are navigations. See, I am calling it as a server, whereas this fellow is calling it as a instance. The AWS terminology, the servers are called as instances. So you can simply click on this instances. Currently, I don't have any instances in this particular Mumbai region. All you need to do is click on launch instances. If you want, you can give some name for the servers. And then they are asking you, which operating system do you want? Do you want Amazon Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu Linux, or Windows, or Red Hat Linux, or SUSE Linux? So many different flavors they are showing. I want to go with Ubuntu Linux. So I am selecting Ubuntu. And once I select Ubuntu, Ubuntu is a flavor of Linux. Okay. Red Hat Linux, Ubuntu Linux, CentOS. Linux comes in different flavors. Ubuntu is one flavor of the Linux operating system. So we are selecting Ubuntu, and after that, it is asking you something called as instance type. Instance type is nothing but the. Are you people able to see? Okay. I think we need to adjust the projector. But anyhow, instance type. They are saying instance type. What is the type of instance? T2.micro. I'll tell you what it is. See. When you go to a retailer and you want to buy a laptop, that fellow will tell that this is i5 processor, i7 processor with 12th generation RAM, all that stuff, right? What is that? That is the hardware configurations of the computer that you are trying to buy. Similarly, AWS has given their own naming conventions. They have given the names like T2.micro, T2.nano, like that. If you go down, you will find this T2.medium, T2.large, etc., etc. That is nothing but the hardware configuration. To make it very simple, T2.micro is a machine which comes with 1 core CPU and 1 GB of RAM. Very small configuration, but we are going with T2.micro because it is free tier eligible. You can go with much more powerful servers, but accordingly, AWS will charge you. If you go with T2.micro, it's a low configuration machine, but it is going to be free without paying a single rupee. You can practice all the Jenkins related stuff. If you people are rich and you want to go with high configuration servers, definitely you can. See, if you go down, you will find extremely powerful servers as you go down. Do you notice M5D.metal? What is the configuration? 96 core CPUs and 384 GB of RAM. So if you want, you can launch those kind of servers, but they are not free. According your organization, obviously they'll go with paid servers. Here in Amirpet, we go with free servers. Okay, no need to waste money on that. Just go with T2.micro. Then the next one it is asking is key pair. What is key pair? See, the 3 servers I am trying to create are getting created in Mumbai, whereas we are here in Hyderabad. From Hyderabad, from my computer, from my personal laptop, if I want to access these 3 servers, I require some kind of security mechanism, username, password, something. That is what they are asking you. You need to create a key pair. I will call this key pair as, just click on create a new key pair and give some name. Shall we call this as AWS_Mumbai? Any name you can give. A security key gets created with a name called as AWS_Mumbai. And then you click on create key pair. What is happening? You see that security key is downloaded into my machine. In this left corner, probably you should be able to notice that security key is getting downloaded into my machine. As long as I have this security key, I can connect to those servers. If I lose that security key, we can still connect, but it's difficult. You have to go through a roundabout process, but so done. After creating that, the next thing it is asking is network settings. Now in network settings, I want all of you to follow these navigations. Click on edit, and after clicking on edit, do you see here you can just select all traffic, and that's it. Each machine is getting created with 8 GB of hard disk. In the free tier version of AWS that we are using, you know how much is free? 30 GB of storage is free. If you use beyond 30 GB, AWS will charge you. Now, in our case, each machine is coming with how much storage? 8 GB. Since we are trying to create 3 machines, it becomes how much? 8 into 3 becomes 24. You are still safe. But if I create a 4th server, it becomes how much? 32 GB. Since you are going beyond the limit, free limit, they will charge you. So up to creating 3 servers, it is free, no problem. Okay. Now, after this, the next one is, it is asking you the number of instances, the number of servers. How many servers we want? 3. Just give that 3 and then click on launch instance. Finish. In just a matter of few seconds, you will notice that 3 Linux servers will be created. Click on view instances. Do you notice that these are the 3 servers? Currently, the status is still shown as pending. In a few seconds, they will come into running status. You give them meaningful names. The first server I will call as, for our understanding, Jenkins server. The second server, which is my testing environment, I will call as QA server. The last server I will call as prod server. I hope you are understanding. That's it. This is how simple it is. I mean, you just watch these navigations once or twice, everyone will be able to create. 3 Linux servers got created on the AWS cloud. Finish. Okay. Now, there's one more thing you people have to keep in mind. 3 servers, AWS community says that in the free account that we are using, in 1 month, AWS says that you can use this AWS services for 750 hours in 1 month. If you go beyond 750 hours, they'll charge you. Okay. Do we have 750 hours in 1 month? In 1 day, you have 24 hours. Let's say 10 days, it becomes how much? 240 hours. 30 days, it becomes 720 hours. Even if your month is having 31 days, it becomes how much? 744 hours. Even if your month is having 31 days, the maximum number of hours you have is 744. But AWS is telling, if you use beyond 750 hours, they'll charge you. How is it possible? AWS people are intelligent. Okay. They know how to fool you. 1 server you are using for 1 hour, it's counted as 1 hour. 3 servers, if you are using for 1 hour, it is counted as 3 hours. Now you are understanding. So if I leave these 3 servers in running condition for 1 complete day, 24 hours, AWS will calculate it as 72 hours. In that way, once you cross 750 hours, they will charge you. So what I request all of you to do is, once your practice is over, highlight all these servers, click on actions, and there you will, click on instance state, and there is an option called as stop instance. Stop will shut down the server, shut down the servers. Don't leave them in running condition. What students do is they simply log out. They'll simply think that, okay, I am signing out and it's done. No, sign out is not sufficient. Whether you sign out or you don't sign out, it doesn't matter. But shutting down the servers after your practice is mandatory, because on a daily basis, how much will you practice? 2 hours or 3 hours, not more than that, right? Let's say you are practicing for 3 hours daily, 3 into 30, how much it will be? 90 hours only. So we are still having a lot of time, 750 hours you have. But if you leave these servers in running condition, 750 hours will happen very quickly. So be careful with that. Always shut down the servers. Better still, you can even delete the servers. You can just click on instant state and click on terminate instance. When you click on terminate, you know what happens? The 3 servers will be permanently deleted, which means tomorrow when you want to practice, again, you have to create the servers from the scratch. If you shut down the servers, you can simply start the server and you can continue the work. but I have terminated the servers, which means tomorrow if I want to practice, again, I have to follow all the navigations and create the 3 servers one more time. See, one more time, very quickly. How did we create the instances? I'll put a filter so that we can see only the running servers. How did we create the instances? First, we clicked on launch instance. Then they were asking which operating system we want. We then selected Ubuntu over there. Ubuntu is a flavor of Linux. Then instance type, we are going with t2.micro. The reason we are going with t2.micro is it's free. And then key pair. Already we have created the key pair. So I can simply select that. What is the name of the key pair? AWS_Mumbai. Then we went into network settings. We clicked on edit. And here in the security group section, we simply need to select an option called as all traffic. Finish. After this, you go down. Each server is coming with 8 GB of hard disk, which is sufficient for our purpose. Don't disturb that. The number of instances that we want for our Jenkins practice is 3 servers. And then we are simply clicking on launch instance. And then we are clicking on view all instances. So let me apply the filter so that we can see only the running servers. Just wait for a few seconds. Two servers have come up. For our understanding, you give them meaningful names. The first server I am calling as Jenkins. Second server I am calling as QA server. There's one more server which is supposed to come up. Yeah, the last server which is serving as my prod environment, I am calling as prod. I hope you understood. Okay, this is the easiest way and the fastest way to work, because on AWS, the infrastructure is maintained by the AWS community. And because this account is free for 1 year, all of you can happily use it. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing is, because sometimes students feel that because they are giving their credit card information or debit card information, accidentally they used beyond the free limit. Instead of creating 3 servers, they created 4 or 5 servers. They forgot to stop the servers. What will happen? Will AWS take money from your account? They won't. At the end of the month, they will raise an invoice saying that this much money you have to pay. If you don't pay that money, AWS will simply suspend your account. They'll block your account. They will not take money from your account. So don't worry. Whether you are giving credit card or debit card, AWS is not going to take money from your account. All they are going to do is they are going to send an email saying that this much money you have to pay. If you don't pay the money within the time limit they give, they are going to block your account. That's it. And generally, what our students, most of the students do is, whenever they get that invoice, they reply to that invoice saying that we are students, we are using AWS for some learning purpose, etc. And please waive off the bills. Majority of the times, AWS will waive off the bill. At least 2-3 times they will listen to your request. They'll waive off the bill. Finally, at one point of time, they'll give a warning saying that this is the last time we are clearing your bills. Next time onwards, no. When they say that, you understand that is the last month you can practice with AWS. So, but anyhow, even if it's going for chargeable stuff, trust me, for the kind of services that we are using, hardly it will be 100 rupees, 200 rupees or something like that. If you are indiscriminately working on very huge servers, that's a different story. But if you are sticking to the basics that I'm trying to show you over here, not only is it free, accidentally, even if a bill comes, most of the students say that 16 rupees, 18 rupees bill has come. So don't worry too much about that. Okay, it's not going to affect you. Okay, so this is about the infrastructure creating on AWS. There's another way of creating the infrastructure on your personal computer, which I want to show you. This can be done using something called as Vagrant. Okay, there is something called as Vagrant through which you can do that. Now, this Vagrant, as I told you, might not work on laptops which are older laptops. So don't worry. Either Vagrant or AWS, any one is sufficient for us. Don't think students don't want to create an AWS account. They want to practice on their personal computer only. Then we suggest this option called as Vagrant. Now, I don't know. I mean, this is a new machine that I'm using. I'm not sure whether Vagrant will work or not. Let us give it a try. So all you need to do is first you go into Google and download something called as Oracle VirtualBox. See, all the softwares that we are going to use for our DevOps tools, all the softwares are free softwares. We don't need to use any pirated softwares or something like that. All the softwares are free softwares, or else at least they will give you trial versions for 2 months or 3 months. Within those 2 months or 3 months, you can practice whatever you want. So no need to go with licensing, buying the license, or going with pirated. All that is not necessary. Most of the softwares are open source softwares, or they are free softwares. Okay. So this Oracle VirtualBox is a completely free software. No need to spend any money on it. So Oracle VirtualBox, I want to install on which machine? My machine is Windows, right? So you see, the Oracle VirtualBox is getting downloaded. I'll wait until it's done. Yeah, it's almost done. Once it is done, install it. How do you install softwares? Double click, right? Accept the terms and conditions. Next, a few times. And that's it. Oracle VirtualBox is getting installed. Okay, click on finish. Now, once Oracle VirtualBox is installed, see, this is the Oracle virtualization software. The next thing that you have to do is you can go into Google and download a software called as Vagrant. This is also a free software. Just say Vagrant download. And this Vagrant, we are trying to install for which operating system? Windows in my case. So, you know, this is the flavor of processor that I am using. So I'm downloading that one. Downloaded. Install it. This is also another 2 minutes activity. Accept the terms and conditions. I think it's updated to all of you, right? Tomorrow, the session will start at 9 o'clock. We'll first have some Linux, then we'll continue with our Jenkins class. Okay. What basic configurations? No, nothing special. I mean, .NET frameworks and all those things should be enabled, Amit, which mostly happens in all these recent laptops, right? That's it. .NET 4 framework should be there. 90% or more your computers will have it.
Hello.
What is my personal number? Ram, actually, I'm not supposed to give my personal number in these basic demo sessions. But once the classes start, maybe I'll be able to give, because now the management feels that I should not share my private data. Taking up Jenkins certification after Sudhakar, I don't even know whether there is any Jenkins certification or not. As far as I know, it's not there. We have certifications for Kubernetes, we have certifications for Ansible, etc. For Jenkins, I have never heard about any certification.
No, we have it. We have it. So I just wanted to check if whatever classes, topics we cover,
would that at least give some 60% help in picking up the certification? Means you'll be covering from a larger point of view, right?
No, I'm sorry. Actually, I can't understand where the voice is coming from.
So what I'm saying is, that whatever topics you'll be taking, right, that would help us to take up the certification, right? Means this is more in broader view, right? It's not like what I'm trying to understand is the topics would help us to take up the certification, because I know
certification. I mean, certification you can generally take. I mean, you can easily take certification with the subject that is covered for Docker, DCP certification, Kubernetes certification, and Ansible certification. You can definitely take with the subject that is covered here. AWS certification, you can't write with the extent that we are covering. That's not possible.
No, because AWS have already done it.
Okay, in that case, Red Hat Ansible certification, the DCP certification of Docker, and the Kubernetes certification, definitely you can do.
Okay, fine. And also one thing, like just, do you also have any recorded for, what is this? You have some other concepts which are not in our syllabus, okay? Recording videos on Puppet.
No, I'm sorry. Concepts related to what, Sudhakar?
Any recording videos for Puppet or Chef?
Puppet I have never covered, but Chef, initially I used to cover Chef over here. Maybe, but I'm not sure whether the IntelliQ management still is preserving those videos or not. Just have a word with them. Maybe they might have it. Puppet, I don't know. I never covered Puppet here. Before starting Ansible, I used to teach Chef, but not sure whether those videos are available or not. Just ask the management once.
Okay, fine. My last question, I'll just ping few of the Kubernetes topics, which I went through when I Googled. Okay, those were not covered, but I'm not sure if those are really important or no. Okay, so just have a look.
Just ping them in the chat. I'll tell you whether that is important or not, or if possible, I'll try to cover that also. Just ping them in the chat box. I'll see, I mean, whether, we have already covered an alternative for that, or we can cover that as we go.
Sure. I've just pinged you. You can have a look at it later.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, there are certain alternatives that we have actually covered for that. That is why I did not. DNS is not part of our training, so I could not do that. But definitely for Ingress, I did not cover because we have an alternative called as load balancer. In service objects, load balancer has come as a replacement for that. So that's the reason why I did not talk about Ingress. Similarly, for config maps are currently replaced with secret objects. So that's the reason why we ignored that config maps.
Okay.
No, service account and all that, it would have been good if I could cover that also, but service account and user administration were not part of the course. I mean, maybe we might include that in the upcoming sessions, but we could not include it now because already it was getting delayed. This Istio is just an alternative for that service. I mean, it's a different way of handling that. So because service was not part, I could not cover that. Carnary deployments, we have covered rolling update deployment. That's an alternative for the carnary deployment. So that also we can actually ignore. Any other deployment is okay. Multi-container pod, Sudhakar, you can just go to any of the definition files in the container section. You create another container that becomes a multi-container pod, nothing special.
Okay.
And as far as the health checks are concerned, that's what monitoring is all about. Your Prometheus and Grafana is a tool which constantly monitors what is happening. So to some extent that's covered. Service is definitely something that it's good if I can talk about that also in the upcoming batches, but they did not include it in the course. So I had to ignore that. But apart from that, for other tools, we had alternatives. So, this Vagrant is asking me to restart my computer to take effect. But if I restart my machine, this GoToMeeting and all that would be lost. It's okay. I mean, we'll do this restarting once the class is over. For now, let me ignore that. But any other questions you want to ask before we wind up, you can please go ahead. Classroom or online.
Hi. Do we cover Azure concepts as well as part of this course?
No, we will be working only on AWS concepts here. A little bit of GCP comes up. That's it.
Sai Krishna Shiva this. Hello.
Yeah, please tell me.
Am I audible?
Yeah, I mean, the voice is coming very low.
Okay. Is this Vagrant is like something where it's offline thing? Like
It's offline. I mean, the installation part you need to depend on online, but once the installation is over, which we did not do today completely, there's one more step involved. Once it is done, yeah, it's totally offline. You can do on your personal laptop.
It acts like a VMware application.
Yeah, it's just an alternative. It's also a VMware only. It's not VMware, it's Oracle VirtualBox, the same hypervisor software coming from Oracle community.
Okay, okay, Sai Krishna. Yeah, thank you.
Sir, I asked you about a Python session. You told me that check out the videos. Right?
No, I said that if you haven't attended the previous batches Python sessions, either you can take the videos, or probably from this Saturday or next Saturday, I'll start the new batch of Python. Maybe you can attend over there. Anything is okay.
Not it started a Python.
So they'll start it probably this Saturday.
Okay.
Hello, Sai.
See, Python sessions, AWS and Terraform sessions, these miscellaneous concepts we'll generally cover on Saturdays. Saturdays, I told that we'll have some extended sessions, right? There I'll be covering all that. Monday to Friday, we'll generally go with the regular topics. On Saturdays, we'll try to wind up these miscellaneous concepts. And
hello,
so you will be sharing the videos of Python and this thing?
You will get the videos of Python, definitely.
Achha. And what about the recording session of this class? Like we'll be getting that?
Yes, you will. We'll just take a few hours time. In another 5-6 hours, you'll get the videos.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Thank you.
Is Terraform, are you taking this into the deep or?
No. Terraform is not going to be in-depth either. Terraform is hardly going to be for 3 hours or so, not beyond that. We will be going in-depth into Ansible, Docker and Kubernetes, Jenkins, etc. Terraform is going to be on a very light note. So it's not an in-depth session of AWS and Terraform that we are covering.
Yeah, because I heard only on AWS plus Terraform, there are good packages. You know, only these two technologies as well.
Terraform in-depth will be covered by the AWS trainer. I told that there's another trainer who teaches AWS, right? So that those sessions would be for approximately 45 days or so, and Terraform. That's it for today. We'll wind up the session and we'll continue tomorrow. Okay, just set up the AWS accounts and practice these basic navigations of how to create these servers. Today, we just created the servers. Tomorrow, I'll show you how you can connect to these servers and how you can install Jenkins and all that via certain Linux commands. And once the installations are done, then we will see the practical flow of the CI/CD, whatever picture I have drawn. Okay, so we'll wind up the session. Anyone still, online candidates, if there are any further questions that you want to ask, you can just call the management. They'll connect the phone call and I'll talk to you on the phone. Okay. So thank you so much. Tomorrow, the session time is 9 o'clock for Linux. If you don't want that basic Linux, you can come at 9:40 regular time and you can start. Okay.